Believe it or not, there are hidden spaces throughout the home just waiting to be turned into display cases and bookshelves. With a little imagination, you can see them, and with a little work, you can create them. This landing area will be a perfect place for a display case. It will add charm to the home, and it will be a good place to put some knickknacks. The first thing that we need to do is find the studs and start marking the area, and I'm using a stud finder to do this with. So you slowly move it across the wall. Uh-oh, I've got a problem here. Ideally, we'd want to put our display case in the middle of this landing wall, but unfortunately there's a stud right here. And we don't want to cut the stud, we just want to cut through the sheetrock. So what I'll do is I'll put the display case on either side of the stud for symmetry. Let me just find the last stud and mark that one. Now I'm just going to use the tape measure to mark 3 inches down from my stud marks here. So there's that one, 3 inches there, and also 3 inches on that stud. And I'm going to mark the bottom as well. 3 inches up from the bottom. There's this one, and this one. Let me just mark this last one, and that's it. Now you can use a level to connect the dots and give yourself a straight line. So let me just line this up and make sure my bubble's in the center. Okay, now I'm just going to do this all the way across to make sure I have a straight line. That's right, like that. Okay, there's the top, so I'm going to do the same exact thing down here on the bottom. Line this up with my marks. And all the way across. Before you begin cutting, a word of warning. When creating recessed shelving, make sure that you don't have an outlet between your studs, because an outlet would mean that you have wires running down the wall. Check both sides of the wall as well for electrical outlets, and also look for gas lines or water lines. I'm using a keyhole saw to cut out this sheetrock. Now for this project, you don't need that many tools. You'll need this keyhole saw, a power saw, a hammer, a drill, tape measure, a paintbrush, and a putty knife, and that ought to do it. There, that was easy. One down, and one to go. All right, got that one out. Normally the studs are 14.5 inches apart, but since this is the wall to the staircase, they put these studs 11 inches apart. So that's okay, we'll just make amends. We'll make our box 11 inches wide, 30 inches tall. We have one more problem. See how this wall is curved? Because of that, we're not going to be able to use the sheetrock as the back of our display case. So we'll just have to attach a piece of board instead. For this project, we're using poplar, which we will paint. Some people may want to use oak or cedar. We're going to mark and cut our width first, so we need it to be at 11 inches. Let me put this mark here. We need to cut 2 of these boards for each box, and today I'm using a power saw, but you can use whatever you have at home, whether it's a power saw or a hand saw. You may have noticed these are 1x6s, and our studs are 2x4s. But since we have an odd-shaped wall, we're going to go ahead and make our display case a little deeper. We can start building our box. I'm using an 1.5 inch finishing nail. I'm just going to start 3 nails and then put our boards together. Now we can nail our boards together and our box is almost done. Since our box is so tall and narrow, we decided to put a couple of shelves in it to make it look better. And as soon as I get through with this nail, I can put the back on. We're using hardboard to put on the back of our display cases, and I need it to be the same size, which is 11 by 30. Mark there, then I'll measure up, mark 30. Now I'm going to use the circular saw to cut this board to size. This was a great place to put a recessed display case. Now I just need to make this flush all the way around with the sheetrock, and then I can secure it. That looks good. The reason that I'm using screws instead of nails is so that if I make a mistake, I can always back the screw out. And with a nail, I'd be stuck. Okay, now I'm just going to fill these holes where my screws are with some putty, and that way when we paint it, it'll look really nice. I'm painting the whole inside of this box, even the backboard. And you don't have to be too careful on the outside because we are going to put trim around it. Now, while I'm letting this paint dry, I can go ahead and measure and go cut out the trim. And you want to measure this frame on the inside, so that's 21 1/4. And I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch to that to have an 1/8 inch reveal on each side. And then the length is 28 1/2. So again, I'll add 1/4 to that for the reveal on the top and the bottom. This is 3-inch oak that we're using for the trim, so it's going to be plenty wide enough to cover the frame and the sheetrock, and I'm just using straight cuts on this. So let's just see what this is going to look like. That's going to look really nice. And I'm just going to use 2-inch finishing nails to attach this. Again, if you pre-drill your pilot holes, that'll make it a lot easier. And then we can come back in with our finishing nails. After you get your first piece of trim up, go ahead and hold up a few more pieces before you actually attach them. That way, if you need to make any adjustments, you can. Let me just put this bottom rosette down here and see. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to start with this rosette in the left-hand corner, and then we'll work our way down and then all the way around. Well, we're almost finished with this part. Get this last rosette in place. This display case is looking really nice. Now that our trim all the way around the case is in place, all I need to do is measure for our last piece, which goes right here in the center, and it's 28 5/8. Let me make sure the center piece fits in here where it needs to be, and that looks good. Remember to set all of your nail heads all the way around so that you can putty over them. Now you can just use a little bit of putty in your finger to fill in all of these holes. Just like that. Now we can caulk any gaps that we have in our frame. Well, there it is. We've given character to a dull spot, and we've turned this hidden space into a display case. We spent less than $100, and it didn't even take us a whole day to build it.